Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert Harper with Farm Bureau's Grain Division, bringing you the Merchandiser Minute for Friday, September the 27th, 2019. Wishing y'all a really good week this week in the field. I know y'all got a lot of bushels harvested and you're staying safe. It was a really quiet, kind of a sideways, as they say, trading week in Chicago as the futures traded in tight ranges between resistance levels on top and support levels on the bottom. It seems like much anticipation is being put toward the quarterly stocks report that we're going to get this coming Monday, September 30th at noon. When we look at what the futures did in Chicago this week, just a quick summary for corn, wheat, and beans. We've got December corn, your new crop contract, closing at $3.71. Traded all week and it was just down 1 penny. November soybeans, your new crop bean contract, closed for the week at $8.83. That was up a penny after a week's worth of trading. December wheat closed at $4.87 and closed up 2 cents for the week. When we look at some USDA and Commitment of Traders report numbers, coming into the week we saw corn is 7% harvested. So we know we're way behind in that area, and obviously that is keeping the speculator in question about yield and therefore production. Corn conditions were rated at 54%. 68% is where we were last year for corn this week, and the bean conditions came in this Monday past at 54%, good to excellent. When we look at the inspections report on Monday, we saw corn coming in below trade expectations, wheat coming in alongside of trade expectations, and bean inspections, what was loaded on vessels, came in above, and China and Mexico were the top 2 destinations for loadings this week for soybeans. The sales report we got from USDA yesterday, we saw really good numbers above expectation for beans, as China and Indonesia were the top buyers. And believe me, it's so good to see, and it's nothing y'all don't know, it's so good to see China buying, making some small bean purchases. I think we've seen 3 announcements in the last week and a half now, and that's definitely helping support your futures price, and we're going to all hope that's going to continue, and the amount of tons they're buying is going to increase. Corn came in below expectations this week on export sales. We know that's a factor of our corn being higher priced than anybody else's in the world, where buyers can originate it from. And wheat came in within trade expectations, with the Philippines and Japan being the top buyers of U.S. wheat this week. When we looked at the Commitment of Traders report that we got last Friday, we started the week off with the managed money, the funds who bet on price direction short corn, wheat, and beans, and they're definitely building, or have built, a pretty sizable short position on corn. And those short positions probably haven't changed too much this week. We'll get that report this afternoon. But that's going to play into how the managed money speculators deal with that quarterly stocks report on Monday, as well as the October crop production report we get on October the 12th. The eye catchers this week, we've got a few of them. Obviously, the big one, we've got what's called a trade enhancement agreement signed between the U.S. and Japan. It does open up the door to about $7 billion worth of business. It's a lot in it. Y'all can go onto social media and read about it. But really, it looks like a non-tariff agreement on imported autos from Japan, and potentially taking the tariffs off of a lot of U.S. agricultural products. It's a lot of information there for myself to keep learning about, but that was a big deal this week. Even though some people read the agreement and say it's an agreement to have an agreement. So take a look at that information for yourself, and there was a pretty muted reaction to that report, the report being released that we had signed that agreement, a muted reaction as far as your futures price goes. We also saw this week the China media saying that the trade talks are going well between the U.S. and China, and one of the big questions that's come up from this Japan agreement with the U.S., this bilateral agreement that this administration likes to do, one of the questions that's come up is, does that complicate what could be going on and going forward with China? The U.S. dollar futures, take a look at that chart. They hit the high of 2019 this week. And if you really want to know what the world thinks about the strength of the U.S. economy, you really can look at those dollar futures. The investor, the participant around the world still sees the dollar as a safe haven, and the U.S. economy is the strongest in the world. So remarkable that we hit the high of the year this week, and we know the challenges that presents to ag commodities and anything being exported, but we'll work with that going forward. We also saw this week, weather-wise, when we look around, the western corn belt is expecting some moisture in the next 7 days. I think that put a little support under some futures prices as people are beginning to realize, as good as this growing season has been out there and as extended as it has been due to warm weather, it might be long-winded and take a long time to get it in the bin if wet weather comes in. When you flip the coin on that, the producers in northern Brazil in that Mato Grosso state, they are now able to go to the field and plant beans, but coming into the week, our data showed only 1% planted, and they're dealing with dry conditions down there. So remember one unique thing right now, we've not only got North American weather influencing your futures price, but we've got South American weather influencing it as well, and more of that to follow as we get into more of a weather market. We did see some news reports this week just saying what y'all already know, that China is continuing to diversify who they will allow to import oilseed co-products into their country. They did approve another 7 new crush plants that are allowed to import into China, so it's nothing we don't know, but it's just a reminder that they're looking for other sources. Next week, the big deal is Monday at noon Eastern, we get the quarterly stocks report, what's in the bin. And if you take a listen to this, corn 2.4 billion bushels is the average trade guess on Monday at noon. If that number is seen, that's going to be the highest September 1st quarterly stocks report since 1988 for corn. If we look at the average trade guess for beans, 982 million bushels in the bin. And no kidding, if that's realized on Monday, that'll be the highest September 1st quarterly stocks number for beans that's been recorded. The average trade guess for wheat, 2.3 billion bushels, that would be down 3% from last year. So that's going to be a big market mover potentially on Monday. Think about if you have unpriced basis contracts that you might want to price some of those bushels before that report comes out at noon on Monday morning, something to consider. We know China's going to be coming back to Washington in 2 weeks with a little bit higher level trade talks. Look for more news next week, a flash sales announcement of China buying beans. And I think we'll be here next week to help you with any of your needs, both on local basis or whatever we can do. This is Robert at Farm Bureau's Grain Division.